Hi everybody, it's Nick McDonald speaking. Welcome to this week's US dollar index and currency market commentary. Obviously, one of the real key factors that played on the markets last week was the earthquake and tsunami which hit Japan. It's a real shame as well, just a few weeks after our last condolence message for the Christchurch earthquake to be saying so again. But just on that note, anybody who has been affected by that quake, our thoughts are with you at this time. We'll go and talk about the dollar yen in a minute, and we'll look at the Japanese yen in general. Firstly, just looking at the dollar index, this is where we finished up last week. This was this candle down here on the daily chart, and we had a little bit of a rally back up into the sell zone. So, I look for that anyway. It's nice to get a bit of a pullback. We've pulled back up, and we've actually hit the upper region of that zone, and we've sold off. So we've got a bearish candle there, and actually just looking like continuing down. There's a few bullish signs coming in. And we might even start to, this price might bounce off this level, but still just recapping, it should be drawn down to this major support level. It should come down and test that until we see otherwise, i.e. until we see evidence of a bounce. And at the moment, there's no evidence of a bounce. We are still looking like coming down towards that level. And at the moment, even, as long as we continue in this daily and weekly downtrend, and we're still within that sell zone region and looking now like pushing down and having a new leg lower, and we should be pushing down through this low and testing down around that 76 region. So it's looking good for a run down in that direction, still remaining bearish on the dollar index. Let's have a look at dollar yen, because there's been a whole lot of questions coming in about this. I had questions come in immediately after the quake struck last week, and then more today with people saying, why is it that the yen is going up? So if we come and have a look at what happened as the quake struck. So here's a 15-minute chart now, and here's where the quake struck. And obviously, dollar went up and yen sold off, so we had a spike, and it was quite a quick spike up. And if we actually, just before we finish on that one, let's come and have a look at what happened in the New Zealand dollar when the quake struck. We'll have a look at this on daily and weekly charts. But so on the Kiwi dollar, this is the day the quake struck. So back here, 22nd of February, and the quake struck, sold off heavily, little rally, and then sold off again. So it's continued to sell off over a number of weeks now, with having that quake, which will be weakening the New Zealand economy. And I think a lot of people had seen that price action, a lot of currency traders had seen that price action, and they thought, okay, well, a similar thing is likely to happen with the yen. The yen is likely to sell off. In fact, what's happening is the yen is rising. So why has this happened? Let's come back to our 15-minute chart. Why is this happening? Well, what happened was that as soon as it happened, there was obviously a bit of a knee-jerk reaction, and people started to sell yen. But then what's happened now is that as people considered, and what happened after the Kobe earthquake as well, there's a lot of money has to come back into Japan. So one, there's aid that flows in. So for example, the US will give a lot of aid to Japan, so therefore they'll be selling US dollars and money will be flowing into Japanese yen. But equally, a lot of the insurance companies and the government as well have money offshore. They don't have all their money in yen, and they'll be bringing some of that money back to pay some of the expenses involved in rebuilding the country. So there'll be a lot of other currencies being sold and yen being bought, and maybe that's already happening, or maybe this is purely speculation right here so early that is what is likely to happen. But that is why we're seeing the Japanese yen rising. There's obviously now speculation as to what will happen this week. Will it be it depends on things like what happens with this potential nuclear meltdown, as some press is reporting it. Obviously, I cannot predict the future in any way, shape or form there, and won't say, but as news comes out, there could be a lot more volatility there on dollar yen and all of the yen crosses for this coming week. So coming back to the dollar index, and let's just wrap up exactly what is likely to happen this week. There's not much more for me to report here other than saying that the daily chart is looking weak, that this actually provides a good shorting opportunity as price breaks down through this this Friday's low, and looks like continuing down from there and testing 7600, which is around about 100 points from where we are now. What can change that scenario? Obviously, if this daily candle doesn't break down through the low. So I'm always looking at a candle and thinking, which way is this likely to break? And the probability is it breaks down through that low. What though if it breaks up through the high first? That completely invalidates that signal, and actually it would be looking very bullish, because that would also be a break up through the high of this weekly candle, and if it breaks up through the high of that weekly candle, then actually we're starting to look like we're putting in potentially a low. So I'd put the probabilities to the downside, but if we break the high of that daily candle and then we break the high of this weekly candle, let's just mark that line on there to be absolutely clear. If we can break up through that level, then actually we're looking like having a pullback at least back into these moving averages on the weekly chart, which gives us a good around about a good 100-point run minimum up to the north side. So really it comes down to now looking at Friday, and actually Thursday and Friday's candles, because they've both got the same range, and seeing does price break down through the low or up through the high. And I believe either which way it breaks, it will be good for 100 points in that direction. Happy trading all. Have a wonderful week. Speak to you soon.